Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call the Wilmington Board of Selectmen meeting of Monday, July 18th, 2016 to order. All members are present with the exception of Selectman Michael McCoy. I'd like to open the meeting officially at 7:03. At this time, I'd kindly ask if we can all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would kindly ask if Selectman Shampoo can lead us in this regard.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to our next agenda topic, which is the transmitting of the Treasury warrants 53, 53A, 54, 54A, 54B, 55, 1, 1A, 2, 2A, 2B, 3, and 3A. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to our first scheduled appointment, we do apologize for running a few minutes behind. It's a 7 o'clock appointment with Michael J. Newhouse Esquire and Lawrence F. Evans of Doodlesack LLC, doing business as La Rosa's. It's a request for a common victualler license for the property located at 269 Main Street, Unit 211. And before we get into the scheduled appointment, I just wanted to disclose publicly that based on certain circumstances that I need to recuse myself from this appointment. And so at this time, I am going to turn the meeting over to Selectman Michael Shampoo, as most of you know, was last year's chair. And Michael will take over the chair position. I will remove myself from the meeting, and upon completion of this appointment, if someone could kindly open up the door and invite me back in, I'll resume as chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll get through this quick and invite Judy back. For the time being, it is a common victuals license hearing, and the request is being submitted to us on behalf of Lawrence Evans, and he's represented by a good friend of ours, Mr. Newhouse. Good afternoon. Good evening, Mr. Newhouse.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman,
Good to
members
see
of
you,
the board, Mr. Hull. My name again for the record is Michael Newhouse. I'm counsel to the applicant, Doodlesack LLC. The manager of that company is Mr. Larry Evans, who's seated here with me. His wife, Rosalie, and his son, Jason, are also involved in the business and have been for some time. So the application is for a victuals license for a sandwich shop at the address noted on the application, though many folks know the address is 211 Main Street, but it's Wilmington Crossing. It's in with the Chili's and the Cleaner Spot Cleaners, and it's specifically in that same building as the Cleaner Spot. You might know it as the former location of the Pink Melon frozen yogurt place. So I believe that the application before you is in order. They have all the recommendations, I believe, of the appropriate department heads. You might be interested in knowing that the Evans family has been in the food business for many years, dating back to as early as 1970. They've operated successful sandwich shops and catering businesses out of a couple different locations, and they're looking to make Wilmington their new home and hopefully their last home. They're currently under a lease. They're working on the fit-out, and they would expect to open for business. They're shooting for September 1, but certainly they'll publicize when they're ready to go. If you have any questions for either myself, Mr. Evans, or the family, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Newhouse. Certainly, I'll open it up to members of the board. To my right, Greg or Kevin. Any questions or observations?
Sure. I just want to obviously welcome you to that spot and to the town and wish you the best of luck and inform you that I'm a big Italian sub guy, so I'll be looking forward to sampling it. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck as well. Good luck.
Certainly, yeah, Mr. Evans, we're delighted to have you coming into Wilmington, and hopefully that spot will be lucrative and successful for you and for all involved. May I ask, as I look at the front of the building and the layout, there seems to be, if I walk in on the left, a couple of like what is it, bar height tables or something to that effect? Is that what I see there?
Yeah.
Oh, is
There's going to be a salad bar there,
on the plans? Yeah.
on the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
And-
going to be a salad bar.
And then down to the right, going towards the back of the building, is that an area for ordering and then access to the bathrooms towards the rear? Is that how?
Yes.
All right. Again, I'm not skilled at looking at these plans. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Jeff, I'll ask you to share with us any observations from department heads.
We have a recommendation from Shelley Newhouse, the Health Director. Recommend approval of the application for a common victualer's license submitted by Michael J. Newhouse Esquire on behalf of Doodle Sack LLC DBA La Rosa Sub Shop located at 211 Main Street. Also a recommendation from Al Spalding, Inspector of Buildings. After review and consideration of the Town of Wilmington bylaw and all applicable codes, I have no outstanding zoning issues with the above-mentioned business.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, so I will open up to the audience if there's anyone in the room that would like to have comment or questions. Thank you very much. At that point, I will close the hearing, and I would accept a motion from one of my colleagues.
I make a motion to accept the license.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there further discussion? I see none. All in favor of granting the request? Unanimous, with one recusal. Noted. Thank you, Mr. Newhouse. Mr. Evans, best of success to you. We'll look forward to visiting you as soon as you're open.
Good. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank
Good luck to you.
Chairman.
Mr. Newhouse, there's a vacancy this evening if you'd like to join us again.
That's okay, thank you.
If someone wants to send Ms. O'Connell in, please.
Good night, thank you.
Good night, Mike. Whoa, jeez, I got it too.
All right. Yeah. That's what happens when one of your legs doesn't work like as good as the other one, so. All right, moving on to our next scheduled appointment is for the Board of Selectmen to recognize Mr. Charles Boyle. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to acknowledge Charlie Boyle, who is the, sure, come on up. As you know, a longstanding chair of the Board of Appeals. I would note that he was initially appointed as an associate member in 1992, became a full member of the Zoning Board of Appeals in 1993, and then began serving as chair in 1994 and has continued in that role since that time. Just from my general observations about that board in general, I think the people on that board deserve a lot of credit for the types of issues they have to deal with. I think it's fair to say that when we are talking about property rights and land rights, what people can and can't do with their property, oftentimes it can be challenging. There are many instances where the proponent is not necessarily in agreement with the butters to that property, and I would say specifically in Charlie's case, in my observations, he's handled that role with diplomacy and professionalism. I think in terms of addressing these issues, he has had the ability really to work through the process and get parties of differing opinions and in some cases very contentious circumstances, be able to navigate them through the process and reach a conclusion with fairness and giving everyone involved an opportunity to speak their piece. So I just want to thank Charlie personally for your service to the town and on the board in particular.
Thank you. Charlie, thank you very much for being here tonight. I do have something to present to you, but at this time I'd like to turn it over to my fellow board members to see if they have any comments at this time. So I'll turn to my right, and if anyone would like to make a comment on the right, that would be great, and then I'll turn it over to my left.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Appreciate you being here, and just want to thank you on behalf of the town for your professionalism and all your volunteerism for many, many years. And people like you are what's great about this town. People giving their time for the betterment of the town, and so I really appreciate all that you've done for many, many years. And I wish you the best in your retirement.
Thank you.
Mr. Boyle, I echo Selectman Bendel's comments. I want to thank you for your
devotion and work on behalf of the residents of Wilmington, your volunteering for many years, and your professional work. And it really shows through, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Charlie, this is a bittersweet moment, I think, for all of us, certainly for the town. Your service has been admirable through all of the years. I've gotten to know you a little bit through the years and work with you, and you rise above all in terms of your professionalism and the way you handle issues. And that's evidenced most recently by your willingness to stay on through seeing through the Tresca case. And thank you very much for your leadership and guidance and protecting the best interests of the people in Wilmington in that case specifically, but on all cases and in every issue that it came across you. So, that's the bitter part. We have to say goodbye to you in that regard. The sweet part is, as someone whom I admire greatly, I'm awfully glad that you're taking advantage of some well-deserved time to dedicate to things that are perhaps of high importance to you. But I would say this, while this might reflect something of a retirement for you from this particular role in public office, I would humbly request that you consider it more of a break and perhaps keep yourself open to the idea of being called into action again in some capacity. Certainly be available, and I know you would be, if there were need or desire for members of the Board of Appeals or anyone else in local government to reach out to you for advice or counsel or just feedback. I know that you'd always be available. So thank you from that regard, and I wish you great happiness and success in all endeavors that you pursue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Before I speak, I'm going to turn it over to the manager. He has a letter from Selectman Michael McCoy, who could not be here this evening, and Mr. McCoy asked that Jeff share these words with you.
So this is from Selectman McCoy. It reads as follows. Dear Charlie, I cannot be here tonight in person, so this heartfelt letter will need to suffice for now. I want to thank you for your 24 years of devoted service to the Wilmington Board of Appeals, many of those years with you having served as chairman. I'm happy to say we've known each other for many of those years, and I can honestly say you are truly a classy guy. You've always demonstrated professionalism and fairness to your colleagues and, more importantly, to the citizens of the town of Wilmington. I wish you nothing but the best and look forward to seeing you around town. Sincerely, Michael McCoy.
So before I read the certificate of appreciation that we'd like to present to you, I just wanted to offer some comments. I certainly have had the good fortune over the past couple of years as to being able to work with you and see you perform in your duties on the Board of Appeals, and I've been quite impressed with your demeanor and your ability to chair those meetings and engage with the public and to handle yourself with civility and professionalism and to see that all sides of the issue are heard. And I particularly am most impressed with the respect that you have garnered amongst your peers and that you're very highly regarded by your fellow board members, and I think that that's a big credit to you as a person and as a business professional in the town. I think the town of Wilmington has been very well served by you. I think anyone that gives 24 years of service to anything, personally or professionally, deserves a tremendous amount of applaud and recognition, so you certainly deserve that. And I know through the 24 years, I'm sure that it came at great sacrifice to personal endeavors and time with your family, and now you get to enjoy your retirement and time well spent with those people and your friends and whatever endeavors you want to embark on. So I just wanted to express my profound gratitude to you personally as a member of this community, and at this time I'd like to offer the certificate of appreciation, which I would like to present to you, to Charles E. Boyle, in grateful recognition for your outstanding contributions, exceptional performance, and dedicated commitment to the highest standards of excellence as a member and chairman of the Wilmington Board of Appeals. Your character and leadership are exemplified by the work and dedication you have unselfishly provided to the town and its citizens over the past 24 years. I have signed it and I offer to you as Judith L. O'Connell, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, on the 18th day of July, 2016.
If I would, I'll just thank the board for this recognition tonight. I'd also like to thank Tony, our board secretary, who came here and might get support, and Ed Loud, the new chairman. I'm sure he's going to fulfill my role as well, if not better than me. But I'd like to thank you and previous boards of selectmen for having the faith in me. And I'd also like to thank the previous board members that I've served with. We've always managed to get together and get things done on the town's behalf. So thank you very much for this recognition.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you around, Sean.
All right, yes, thank you.
Take the bar.
Thanks.
Okay. So moving right into our next scheduled appointment with Valerie Gingrich, Director of Planning and Conservation, regarding the Hazard Mitigation Plan and Conservation Restriction. Good evening.
Before you tonight is the 2015 update to the Hazard Mitigation Plan. For the past couple years, few years, the town has been working with MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, to update our hazard mitigation plan. And the plan outlines potential hazards in our community. It outlines potential mitigation measures for us to lessen the likelihood of those hazards. And the plan outlines short-term measures, long-term measures, everything from short-term, the Mass Ave drainage project that was just completed, which, so we're ahead of schedule on that one. Things like purchasing heavy-duty snow trucks, which would be on the capital improvement plan, as well as long-term focuses on planting more trees within when we're approving projects, so that we're focusing on cooling parking lots and drought-resistant plantings. So a full range of mitigation measures. FEMA has approved this plan on the condition that it's adopted by the town, and that's why it's before you tonight. An approved plan allows us to apply for hazard mitigation funding, which also helps us pay for these plans to be done and can be used for other grant opportunities. So I would take any questions on the hazard mitigation plan, I guess, and then I can explain the conservation restriction.
Okay. Any questions or comments for anyone here on the board?
Yeah, just real briefly, I'm sorry, and maybe I'm confusing my matters. Is this a brand-new plan to the town, or is this an update of a previously held or adopted plan?
It's an update, but it's a lot of new content. They looked at our previous plan and sort of checked off what we had done, and some of those things were taken off the list of mitigation measures. Some of the things that hadn't been done sort of carry over into this update. A lot of the hazards that we have, we're not a high hazard community, but we do have some flooding often in certain spots. So the hazards don't change a lot, so a lot of the information stays the same as potential hazards are described and outlined. But what's new is the mitigation measures that come up in our capital improvement plan, or just new efforts to look at new things.
And I'm embarrassed to admit that I got it through about, I don't know, I marked my page, but just a little less than half of this before coming into this meeting tonight. One of the potential hazards is, and I always think of snow as probably the thing that happens that's the worst to us. We don't live on the coast. We've got some small rivers and tributaries, and certainly there's localized flooding, but snow hits us, hits all of us. And so you have a mitigation plan. I mean, how do you mitigate snow? There's not much you can do.
Well, that's what one of the mitigation, and if you have to cut to the chase, there's a really nice table 28, potential mitigation measures. It's page 109. This kind of outlines our mitigation measures as a chart, which is really helpful.
Oh, thank you.
So it has each of the hazards, potential hazards, and under snow or winter storms, I guess. The two things are, one, to acquire 2 heavy-duty dump trucks with plow and sanders. So being able to manage the snow, I guess, maybe not stop it, but manage it. And then the other thing is to evaluate public buildings for their snow loads, just to make sure that we're looking at those things as we get more and more snow.
Thank you. It's a very comprehensive document, and I appreciate the work and effort that must have gone into its creation by you and all that you work with, so thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anything?
How often is this updated, this
Sure.
procedure?
It's every 5 years, but it takes a couple years to update it, so it's sort of a rolling kind of keeping track of what we're doing and new things. But it's technically every 5 years.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks for your team and yourselves' work on this, and for your forward thinking on this. And although it's difficult for me to think about snow today, on a day like today, I'm glad someone is, so thank you.
I would just echo that too. I mean, obviously, this is quite a comprehensive report, and I learned a lot in terms of reading it, and some of it, I have to admit, I don't quite fully understand, probably to your level of expertise. So in terms of the flooding piece, I think that's key. We certainly have a lot of water here in Wilmington and a high water table, so I'm happy to see that. And then obviously with the wind-related hazards, trees have to be a factor. I mean, in terms of storms, and this winter was kind of an anomaly over the past 2 to 3, but between the town's work and Reading Municipal Light to see that we are maintaining our services, I think are key, and just safety. So I'm glad to see that on there as well. And then also too, just in terms of I noticed that the substation has made the list on there, so I'm curious to see how that, evolves over the next, 5 to 10 years, just from our facilities plan and seeing it on this report. I think it's becoming more and more a common theme. So I think, anything else, Jeff?
No, I think that should do it.
Okay. When you finish with your presentation, I'm going to kind of go outside of the norm and just open it up to the audience, if that's okay, just because of the size and stature of this report. I think may be beneficial. Just want to make sure if anyone in the audience has any questions.
Sure.
Does anyone at this time have any questions at all in the audience? Yes.
Is it available online?
It is. It's on our website.
Okay.
George,
You can just-
Concord,
thank you.
Street. I'm getting asked this question in ignorance. Does that include other aspects of hazards, or just natural disasters? Does it include some of the facilities that may store potentially hazardous materials?
It's only natural.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just curious.
All set?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So there was another item that sort of goes along with this is FEMA's letter about letter of map amendments.
Yes.
And that letter is describing when the maps the map panels are generated, when there are site-specific amendments to those maps, they're done as letters of a map amendment. They don't then go back and revise the whole map. They just have these letters of map amendment. And this letter outlines all of those and just kind of says that these are still in effect even though there are new maps. So it's, for our information, it's actually going to be a really helpful list for us to consult when people come into to Town Hall to ask about properties. So I just wanted to explain that letter. And if there's any questions on that, I'm happy to explain that.
So could it be conceivable that a specific property owner may have purchased the home and then now the maps have changed and so they weren't in a flood zone, now they may be, and they may be in fact required to carry flood insurance?
With the map changes, potentially, but this letter is just reiterating that all the specific changes from before that had been approved before are carrying along, even though there are new maps. So that this is kind of a master list for us to reference.
Understood. Okay.
So just to be clear on that, and Valerie, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but a good portion of the properties that are included in this July 7th letter already existed prior to the revision of the maps. They're just wanting to make it clear that these continue on.
Right, and they kind of,
So it's not as if all of these properties are newly deemed to have some kind of a potential hazard impact.
Correct, because, in looking at it, I only found one. That was 2016, which is Whispering Pines, which is, I'm assuming, the new structure that went up.
yeah.
Okay.
Is there any action that you're looking for us to take at all tonight? Just an update.
Well, the hazard mitigation plan would need to be adopted by the board. You can either take that up now or under board to consider, however you choose.
Judy, may I,
Sure.
a really quick question? On the flood map letter, just out of curiosity, it doesn't say that here. If and when new properties, by virtue of the classification or whatever, do get added to our overall map, is there a process for notifying the property owner? Do they become aware? Or do they only become aware when they either try to go to sell and they find out?
I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I would have to find that out.
I just wonder that, I don't know what the process is. I'll be honest with you, the first thing I went to do is, I went to see if I was on this list, or if any of my close
Talking
neighbors.
about if you're gonna need flood insurance
Well, I
versus
guess
not?
so, yeah, like.
It's lender specific, so two mortgage companies could define a property not needing flood insurance. So there's the map itself, but there's also lender specific too.
Okay, but once you're in an agreement, or once you have a relationship with your lender,
Right.
and say it's a 30-year note and you don't go to refi, you're just kind of living with the situation as it was perhaps 5 years ago. And if there's a change inside that 5 years, it would behoove me, I'd want to know about that change so I could take the appropriate
Right.
action to protect myself. And I'm not sure if there's a,
I don't know if there's a hard and fast regulatory manner to do that, but
Mm.
lenders typically will catch up with those properties and issue a letter as a lender, and
Is
they'll
that right?
require you to carry insurance because they have a note on the property, but there's no,
but FEMA doesn't
know.
have a process built into your knowledge.
I don't know.
Okay. Look, I don't want to make an issue out of it. If you make a mental note of it,
Yeah.
maybe check that out, lob me an email or something. But, at this point, I'm not trying to suggest that we change policy. I'm thinking about, I'm just thinking about the homeowners that perhaps would want to have as much knowledge about their property as possible ahead of time rather than find out about it when it's kind of after the fact. That was my only question. Thank you.
anything else? Anything at all from the audience? Okay. We could take it up now if you want, or if you think it's for convenience.
So what the board would be asked to do is to approve of a resolution adopting the Town of Wilmington Hazard Mitigation Plan 2015 update to read as follows. Whereas the Town of Wilmington establishes a committee to prepare the Town of Wilmington Hazard Mitigation Plan 2015 update, and whereas the Town of Wilmington Hazard Mitigation Plan 2015 update contains several potential future projects to mitigate potential impacts from natural hazards in the Town of Wilmington, and whereas a duly noticed public meetings were held by the Emergency Management Team on March 27, 2014 and June 9, 2015, and whereas the Town of Wilmington authorizes responsible departments and/or agencies to execute their responsibilities demonstrated in the plan, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Wilmington Board of Selectmen adopts the Town of Wilmington Hazard Mitigation Plan 2015 update in accordance with MGL Chapter 40, Section 4, or the Charter and bylaws of the Town of Wilmington.
I'll make a motion to adopt that as presented by the manager.
I'll second your motion.
Motion made, any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin.
I think we're good. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
We've got the,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Another document before you tonight is a conservation restriction easement for 5 single-family lots at the Murray Hill subdivision, which is an extension of Eleanor Drive. So our zoning bylaw requires a buffer strip, a 30-foot buffer strip, vegetated, non-disturbed area between the wetlands and any kind of single-family use on a private lot. So what you have before you is the conservation restriction for that buffer strip on 5 of the lots. And the Conservation Commission adopted that or accepted that at their last meeting, and it's before you tonight to accept. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I guess I should say that the conservation restriction requires that the area not be disturbed. It can be used in its natural state. So it is still part of the single-family lot, but it's to be left in a vegetated, kind of undisturbed manner.
How are they going to be marked?
Typically, we have them marked with physical things like fences or boulders or things
a
like
post
that.
rail or?
Yep,
or-
exactly.
Now, do you dictate what they use, or do they present you a plan?
We go along with what the Conservation Commission typically sees, so a post and rail or a line of boulders. Often it's, if there are boulders on the site, they like to use those because they're there. Otherwise, they kind of have a choice of what they want to use. We also encourage and require signage, so you know what exactly that is. Similar to the signage that we see on the open space parcels around town.
Okay. Right. Any questions or comments?
I was particularly glad when I saw in the first paragraph that the new open space will include trails which connect to the existing trails off Mill Road to expand the existing trail network in this area. So it's obviously work that has been ongoing for some time now to both expand the access to trails, but also the document the inventory of them. So this will add to that, and I admire that and appreciate that.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion for this board to approve the conservation restriction as presented?
I would move to adopt the conservation restriction for Murray Hill Estates as presented.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our 7:35 appointment with Kendra Emerald, Assistant Town Manager, and Paula Looney, our Town Engineer, regarding the status update of the Untow Farm Recreational Facility. Good evening.
Good evening. We were a little concerned the glue wouldn't hold on this, so I apologize that some of it has fallen off.
You sure I didn't kick it when I tripped over the tripod?
Oh, that's certainly possible. This was your first hazardous mitigation. So good evening, and thank you for having us. We are here to give an update on the Untow Farm project. This is, we hope, a timely update, as we are doing a site walk this Wednesday morning, June 20th at 8 a.m. and welcome all the Board of Selectmen to join us. We're going to be walking the construction site to show how we're doing in progress. Overall, we are on schedule. We anticipate opening of this project likely spring of 17 for finishing work, and Paul will explain that. What we've brought here is a board just showing some of the material selection and colors that we're going for. Members of the committee, Ms. O'Connell and Mr. Kyra, will note that the goal of the committee was to have a more rustic looking, more sort of farm outdoorsy space, so we've been selecting materials that go along with that approach, very earth tones, grays, browns, bronzes to fit in with the aesthetic that the committee selected. What this board shows, in addition to how the playground material is, this is the playground selection that the committee made, the resilient material that's going to go underneath, so again, kind of hearkening to earth tones. The pavilion and concession stand, which has a stone treatment below and then a nice wood treatment above, and we've got the stone selection that goes along with it, the roofing and the partitions within the concession stand, so they all go along. The signage is going to be more natural in approach. It's going to be a natural wood with raised lettering as opposed to your standard engraved signage. Site lighting was chosen to look like something you would see along a barn or in an outdoor area. And then for the field, we're going with, as much as we can, earth tones, but recognizing that this is still Wilmington and we need to have some blue. So the scoreboard and some other features of the field are going to be in blue, but otherwise, again, very earth tones that all go along with it. So we brought that to show, and we'll have that available as you want to get into it a little bit deeper. And with that, I'll turn it over to Paul to talk about the construction schedule.
Thanks. Well, the park is starting to really take shape. During the design phase, we anticipated a schedule pretty much for one full construction season. This is about as close to the midpoint of a construction season as you can get, and I'd say our initial assessment is accurate. We'll be looking at substantial completion probably at the end of this year, with an opening, as Kendra mentioned, anticipated for the spring. It's an exciting time to be on site, which for the members of the board that will be accompanying us on the site walk on Wednesday, you'll see that the rough grading is done, and now the site's transitioning into installation of some of the more prominent features of the site and some of the finished products. So you'll see on Wednesday morning, the first course of pavement is down for the access drive and the parking area. And that gives your mind a sense of placement now of some of the different pieces of the project that are on the board. The foundations are in for the concession stand, the columns for the pavilion, and the maintenance shed. The first course of pavement is down for the basketball court, and they just, I believe, end of last week installed the fence posts that are going to go around the perimeter of the basketball courts. And probably the biggest attraction, which is the turf field, the base stone is installed on the turf field, for the turf field. The bleacher section's installed, the light poles, the field lights are all up, and the walkway that goes around the perimeter of the field is in. This week we'll be looking at delivery for the carpet for the turf field, with an installation scheduled, I would think, on Monday or Tuesday, depending on, there's a like a foam underlayment that goes, shock absorber under the carpet, so they'll put that on first and then the carpet. But that's all happening this week. I'm sorry, delivery's happening this week and construction next week. So our 2-week look ahead is just that. It's the carpet for the field, and they'll be working at that back end of the site and working their way now towards the front of the site. It's just a construction strategy, so they're not running over finished products. They'll be installing the site lighting for the remainder of the site over the next 2 weeks. The granite curbing that goes along the edges of the parking lot. I met with Reading Municipal this morning, and they're on schedule to replace the 2 poles, which we had the easement sign off, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. That'll be in 3 weeks, which fits nicely in our construction schedule. And the supplies for the concession stand, we have, we just got word today that the manufacturer has all their outstanding questions answered, so they'll be now issuing or starting to send their materials out, which is nice to hear. With that, any
So we provided Mr. Hull with a budget summary that we give enough copies to the selectmen, just to give you a general sense of where we're at. If you recall, town meeting appropriated $4.8 million for this project. Base bid construction for the project is $3.8 million and change. And then we had some additional costs for signage for the site. We had 3 ad alternates that we had put into the bid. One was paving the pathway up to the Textron property border, putting in the footings for a combined football soccer net, and then actually installing combined football soccer nets. Because the base bid came in well under budget, we were able to exercise those alternates. We put aside a 12% contingency. We had money for the utility pole relocation, and then soft costs, construction administration services, which is what our engineers do, is they're reviewing shop drawings and submittals from the construction company and our resident engineer who's on site representing the town. We are very much on budget. You will note most specifically, and the thing that Paul and I watch very carefully is where we are with our contingency. We've only used about 5.9% of our contingency so far, given the fact that we're a third of the way through construction. I believe we're all the way through earthwork to the point where the unknowns have been discovered, so we don't have any surprises that we think will come about. Any further changes or any changes in the design will now be our choice as opposed to, do we think things would work better, things that we're seeing on site that may need to be adjusted, but otherwise the unknowns are done. What we're doing is we're tracking both the approved change orders, that's the approved expended COs, and then the approved unexpended COs. And so for contingency, with a $470,000 contingency set aside, so far we're only about $28,000 into it. So Paul is doing an amazing job in managing the day-to-day on this and making sure that everything stays on contract and on point with the contractors, and they're doing a great job of getting the work done efficiently and effectively.
Any questions or comments at all from the board? Start to my left.
Nothing now, but I'm going to keep myself open. Thank you. I have no questions other than, I liked it there.
They're a little heavy for the spray goose.
No, it's really exciting. I make a point when I'm driving down or driving in that area to detour, kind of just keep an eye on things, and I love it. I love seeing the progress, and if I go 2 or 3 days without seeing anything, then I'll drive by again and go, wow. So it's really very impressive to see professionals doing their work and to see the sort of the steps that are being taken. By the way, I'll send you a message, but I do intend to join on the tour on Wednesday morning, so I'm excited to see that up close and personal. I feel like I have some questions about the budget stuff, but the general or overlying observation I take from it is, we're ahead of schedule and ahead of budget. So, I mean, there's really nothing to complain about. Right, Greg? I just used Greg's line from earlier, so I feel bad stealing it, but it's the truth. So, thank you very much, and I'll be anxious to hear questions from my colleagues.
Anything over here?
No, it's exciting to see it come to being, I guess, and just one question. Every once in a while I'll drive by and I see some of the shrubs that are up. Some of them have since turned brown. They're going to be replaced, I would assume, and it doesn't, but would that have implications to the budget? No, that's all part of the...
Yeah, they're responsible for the plantings for a year. So from turning it over, I believe, to us. So they're responsible a year from when they turn the project over to us.
Oh, that's
so
good.
for a while. And actually, they wanted to install the plantings along the perimeter early on, and there was some discussion back and forth about it, but I think it's worked out very well because it ensures that these plantings can get established long before they leave site, and then we've got it for a year thereafter to really make sure the trees and otherwise fit in. But we have seen some that have gone off, and actually the nursery's delivering replacements for those. I think they're starting this week.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Wednesday. I'll be there.
Thank you. Yeah, this is really exciting stuff, so thank you for your work and to the committee for keeping this on time and under budget as of today, so I appreciate that, and I know the residents do too, but I too, Mr. Shampoo, take the opportunity to try to drive by as much as I can, and it's just really exciting. I just know that it's going to be come the fall, and in the future it's going to be one of the flagships of our community, so I'm really excited about this project, so thank you for all your work.
I just want to say thank you as well. I mean, obviously, I've talked to both of you extensively throughout this whole process and continue to do so, and surprised that you haven't gotten a complaint about a suspicious silver car comes by. That would be me. But I just wanted to say how much I appreciate all the work that everyone has done, but more specifically the two of you. And, obviously, the town is relying on all of you to do your part to see this come through, and you've done that. And I can't tell you how much that means to me as a member of the committee and just as a resident in town that is a taxpayer. I just want to say publicly, and I don't want to take away the messaging that's come from the manager and from either one of you, but I've received questions from people about, the football goalposts and things like that. And I think it bears repeating that because the bid numbers came in low enough from what our original estimate is, that the committee made a decision to prioritize the ad alternates and put those 3 items, the Textron path, the footings for the football and soccer nets, and then the football soccer nets themselves into it. And I think that makes perfect sense, because you spend a significant amount of money to the tune of at least $1 million plus or minus on a turf field to have to go in and cut into it and try and retrofit it post completion really isn't advantageous for anybody, and also maintaining the quality of the carpet, in my opinion, as not being a construction person. So I just wanted to say that I think that's a great add-alt for what it's worth, and I think it makes perfect sense. And I'm really excited about the completion of this. I know we still have a ways to go. I appreciate you coordinating the site visit on Wednesday. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And I assume at some other point throughout, the next 6 to 8 months, we'll have another update when it's more appropriate to talk about it.
Yep, and we need to, we're working on plans for the opening ceremony, so we need to reconnect on that as well.
Okay. And then also too, I know that you had been working with the fire department to take some pictures. Is there photography samples still being taken throughout the
Yes.
project cycle?
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe every week that Paul and I are on site, we're taking pictures on site as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Anything here from you, Jeff?
I would just reiterate your comment about the field. I think clearly the intent from the committee was that the turf field be available for lacrosse, soccer, those types of sports, field hockey. But since the opportunity existed to have the football goalposts installed and the soccer netting, it is a multi-purpose space, and I think it was advantageous given the pricing, to be able to do that now as opposed to having to come back later. So, and then with regard to the change order that we had, if you can just review what that was.
Sure.
The pipe, the footings.
Yep, the first change order was to increase, they had a 4-inch under drain around the perimeter of the turf field. When we started to excavate the entire field, we found that the permeability was a little lower than expected, so we wanted to increase the size of the under drain around, just for really a belt and suspenders, to make sure that the field wouldn't take on any water in any event. The second change order was for the spread footing for the field lights. If you see them, they're 70 feet tall, and they extend, I believe, 16 feet in the ground. And when you look at something so concise and has to go so deep, when you're augering that down, sometimes you hit surprises, and it can be we hit a boulder down, I believe 12 feet. So what they had to do is switch the foundation for one of the poles to a spread footing instead of a deep footing. Keep making sure the poles are upright.
Yeah, it'd be good to keep them up, right?
Yeah.
So I just also want to extend my compliments certainly to Paul and to Kendra. They've really been the point people on this, and really keeping things on track. So that's clearly a good thing for us, and I anticipate that it'll continue to be on track and under budget.
Great.
I would just note, in terms of the field trip, if members of the board could let me know by tomorrow if you're intending to go. We just, for safety purposes, have to make sure we have enough vests and hard hats and so on. So.
So is that, and then also to like a decent shoe to wear as well. Yep.
That's right.
I can also just note that WCTV is showing a little bit of a site tour on it, an interview with Paul on site and showing some of the site specifics. So for those who, you know, can't necessarily get on the site but want to see what it looks like, it's a great way to take a peek at that.
Yes. So last time Paul was here, I think it was for the easement that I had just watched it that day. I think it was just released, and I think it's really cool that, and I was impressed. So I watched it. I promoted it on social media too. So, so exciting times. Thank you again. Does anyone here in the audience have any questions or comments? Yes, if you can just name and address for the.
Full Bound Lane. I'm on the committee that helped design this. Pretty proud, pretty blessed to be on that committee, and you guys have done a great job. Judy, chairperson, has steered us great, and this is going to be a beautiful park for this community. I'm very proud to be on that. My job now allows me about once a week to go by there, and I'm creeping because I drive along the backside of it to check it out, and I cannot wait till Wednesday. And I also want to plug yantelfarm.org. Go on there, donate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'll leave this here with the materials if you want to take a peek later, and then we'll just grab that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into communications.
Under communications, first item is a memo from me to the board just providing an update on the town's website. Over the last 6 months or so, we've been going through a pretty rigorous update on our website. Jackie Laverty, who works in my office, has really spearheaded this, involved all the different department heads, looking at ways to make the website more user-friendly, really trying to design the website from the vantage point of the user as much as possible. We're still using Virtual Town Hall. They are the provider of the platform, and they are, I believe, the largest provider of websites, municipal websites in the Northeast. So we're essentially drawing on their expertise as well. I would encourage anyone to take a look at it. We're certainly looking for feedback. I suspect there will continue to be some tweaks to the website, but I think it, in my estimation, has really come out very well.
Chair, question or comment on that?
Yes.
George Linikoff of Lower Concord Street. I noticed tonight that before I come down to meetings, I usually check the website, and in the past, the website had included a draft and then a final agenda for the night of the meeting. I noticed that the draft and the current agenda is not on the website. It just includes past agendas. I don't know if anyone else in the audience at home might have noticed it. I always find it very helpful to be able to look at the agenda before the meeting. That's a comment.
Did you?
I looked. I don't know if it's there or not. I just looked every place I could find, and I couldn't locate the agenda for tonight.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, and I went on the website before as well, and I didn't specifically look for that, but
It was always there.
did
before.
you go into the calendar, the town calendar, or did you go to the agenda?
It showed the box in the calendar that was lit up with a red outline.
Okay.
The old website had that lit up. When you clicked on it, it had a lot of I don't know what you call it. It redirected. You could go other routes.
Yeah.
That was frozen up. It showed it in outline.
Okay.
Also, on the old website, when you brought it up to the date, it showed what was happening that night, and there were hot links.
Yes.
And you could go to the agenda, which
Correct. That's what I'm
similarly,
referencing.
when you got to that hot link, it would bring you to the agendas, and it showed that, like on Tuesday or Wednesday of the week before, there would be a draft agenda.
Correct.
And then it would be finalized the Friday afternoon.
Correct.
For tonight's meeting. And I've always found that to be very helpful in the past, and I didn't know, I couldn't find it. I don't know that it's not there, but I looked pretty good and I couldn't find it. So my comment would be on the website, that was a very helpful tool to be able to look at the current night agenda. Not the historical one after it's been,
Right.
today or Friday afternoon when it's posted, or even the draft agenda, which was sometimes a few days before the.
Understood.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks. I did have a chance to take a look at it. I think it looks great. In terms of the modern look is definitely there, and then I also like the idea that it's cloud-based, which would obviously help people be able to upload content. So I'm sure it's just going to get better and better from here, but I think it really is a nice design, and look forward to using it as I typically do, so.
I would just
Good
note,
stuff.
too, one of the features that we didn't historically have was the ability or greater ability for people with tablets and iPhones and mobile devices to access it and get the information in the design that it appears regularly. Next is just a memo to the board regarding the Antop Farm facility update, which, as you know, was covered. I would just, again, note that we have the tour on July 20th at 8 a.m. We will be meeting at the site, and anyone who's interested, please, any of the board members, please let me know. We have the correspondence from FEMA, and this was covered by Valerie Gingrich. This is the information related to particular parcels that essentially FEMA is looking to reassert that these unique revisions to their plan still remain in effect. We have correspondence from Paul Brozo. He has expressed interest in being considered for the Board of Appeals open position. He provides a cover letter and has completed the application for appointment. So he has been added to your list for interviews next Monday. Press release from RMLD regarding an informational forum. This is fairly brief. I'll just read it. Reading Municipal Light Department will be hosting an informational forum at the North Reading Senior Center on Tuesday, July 26, 2016 at 7 p.m. At the forum, RMLD personnel will review the benefits of peak shaving using mini distributed generation equipment to be installed at RMLD's substation in North Reading. Learn how investments in technology like DG can improve our system's reliability, resiliency, and reduce the impact of rising utility industry costs. For questions or comments, call Tom Olilla. Provides his number 781-942-6426, or visit their website. We have correspondence from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and this is with regard to municipal elections to the Boston Regional Office, and it describes the process for election of officers.
Okay, moving to the board to consider items. We did 6 and 7.
So under the next item, board to consider, this is a request from Police Chief Michael Bogonis, and it is the Police Department requests permission to hang the National Night Out banners from the gazebo on the town common in front of the public safety and in front of the public safety building, notifying the public of the celebration on August 2nd, 2016. We will remove them after the event. This is, as you know, the National Night Out that'll be coming up soon.
Questions, comments, or a motion to grant this request?
Make a motion to grant the request.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
The next item is a letter from Sal Demboscus, Lynch Materials, to the Chair of the Board of Selectmen. Would you please arrange for Robert Tosca of Woburn, Mass. to be sworn in as a public weigher for the town of Wilmington, working out of Lynch Materials, formerly Heffron Materials, 800 Salem Street, Wilmington, Mass. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact James Lynch. As you may recall, when the board conducts its annual appointments, one of the appointments is a public weigher. We currently have three are private, work for private firms. One is a police officer. Their role is essentially to, when commodities are sold, particularly at a place like Heffron or the Beneventos, they record the weight of the material that's being shipped or purchased by an entity, and the State Division of Standards is responsible for overseeing, and they can, as they deem appropriate, come on site and request to review records. So this is essentially the role of the weigher is to record the weight of material being sold.
Questions, comments, or a motion to grant this request?
So my only question is procedural, not about the applicant or anything. Lynch Materials is recommending Mr. Iantoska. Is Mr. Iantoska an employee of Lynch Materials?
That is my understanding he is. But it doesn't say in the letter, so I would not say that with certainty, but I would think so, but I guess I can't say for certain.
Okay. Yeah, I
I
don't
do
know.
have a recommendation or a response from the police chief, just noting the police department has reviewed the request from Robert Iantoska to be appointed as a public weigher, and we find nothing prohibiting his request. But I don't know whether he is specifically an employee or he's contracted to them, or typically my experience is that they are employees of the place that they do the weighing.
For me, the endorsement of public safety, and specifically in the form of the police chief, weighs heavily for me. So, thank you. It answers the questions that I was wrestling with. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Anyone like to make a motion to grant the request?
I'll move to grant the request to approve Robert Iantoska as a public weigher.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
We have a request from Rotary to use the Rotary Park for their Ice Bucket Challenge. This would be on Saturday, August 27th, in the morning. And this will be the second year. You may recall they had a similar event last year to raise funds for ALS. There'll be a DJ and food, and it's last year I know it was a pretty successful event given the short notice.
Any issues, conflicts, or anything that would prohibit? Anything?
No.
All good. Okay. Questions, comments, or a motion to grant this request?
I'll move to grant the request.
Okay.
I'll
Motion been made.
second.
Motion been made and seconded. Anything further? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. And did you have a new one other item that you wanted to bring up?
Yes, just one other item, whether it be taken up under board to consider or new business. I did receive a request, came in today from the Wilmington band parents and the Sons of Italy, seeking to use the Swain Green and parking lot for a yard sale to raise funds for the two groups. So there'll also be a car display in the parking lot, and they're seeking use of the area on September 10th would be 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. This, again, would be a yard sale with a rain date of September 24th. The 10th, we've checked on that date, and there are no conflicts. The 24th, September 24th, I would note, is the date that the library is having their the shredding truck come out for residents who may need to get rid of documents. So the 24th would be problematic, but the 10th is certainly available.
Questions, comments, or a motion to grant the request with the understanding that the rain date would not be viable? Do you want to have some sort of commentary in the motion that also says subject to a mutually agreeable rain date per the advisement of the town manager or something like that?
I think that would be
So
helpful.
we don't have to come back, for the rain date approval?
Yeah, I
Words to
think
that
that would
effect?
be appropriate to, in the event that a rain date is required, that it be subject to mutual agreement.
Mutual agreement with the town?
Yeah,
Okay, would anyone like to make, just so we don't have to come back and revisit, would anyone like to make a motion to that effect with
So
that?
moved.
Okay, motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Public comments? Hearing none. New business and committee reports, I'll start to my left, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair. I just, when the discussion of the town's new website, which was unveiled today, we were talking about it, kind of slipped by. And, it is mobile friendly. I have it up on my cell phone now, and it's very intuitive. It's easy to look at. So I really, as I'm saying this now, I want to encourage folks to go and experience it and kick the tires, as it were. Admittedly, I did go looking for tonight's agenda on there, and I couldn't find it. So it may be here, but it didn't jump out. So certainly, it's a living, breathing tool or resource. And if there are wrinkles to be ironed out, just communicate those wrinkles that you find to the town, and they'll be ironed. That being said, in the letter that Jeff wrote to us, to the Board of Selectmen about this, he made two important points that I wanted to draw to the town's attention. One is that in addition to improving the customer experience, the upgrade has also improved the internal management of the site. I love that choice of phraseology, improving the customer experience. I think oftentimes government gets a bad rap because we don't treat our citizens the way businesses treat customers, and I think that's very healthy, Jeff, and I think hopefully I'm confident that everyone under your direction views it this way, that our residents who are paying taxes are making an investment in the town, and that they deserve to be treated as buying customers. So I was very happy to see that phraseology in here. Additionally, the additional flexibility that you mentioned, each department has the ability to update their own content, which will keep the materials fresh, updated, and it's a dramatic improvement over the former. So thank you for your efforts there. That was my comment on the town website. Additionally, one last thing I wanted to mention was, we, the Board of Selectmen, received a communication from Mr. Lewis Foreman, I guess maybe a little over a week or so ago. And Mr. Foreman made some observations about one of our business professionals, specifically a gentleman by the name of Carmen Cunningham, who was the owner of the Cleaner Spot Dry Cleaner and Tailor here in Wilmington. And I won't go through the whole document or the whole letter from Mr. Foreman. It was very well written and impassioned, and he, like so many folks in Wilmington, were touched by Carmen, not just because he was a very good business professional, but because he was a very good person. And he touched a lot of folks in town through a myriad of organizations and charitable endeavors that he entrenched himself in immediately upon coming to town, I guess around 9 years ago. A very impressive, a very kind human being who mentored young people, took them into his business, and hired them and helped them grow as individuals. Was always there anytime any business or individual went in asking for help, whether it be a donation, for a raffle, or anything. Carmen was, I would defy anyone to find a time that Carmen said no. So Mr. Foreman asked if the town had any plans or intent to memorialize Mr. Cunningham in some fashion at that spot or somewhere else. And I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I think the general opinion on that is that while certainly Mr. Cunningham is deserving of that, there are also a number, dozens of folks that are in public office or in the public world today that could potentially be deserving of that, and there certainly are a number of folks that have served the town in a myriad of ways and will. And so the question became, who should be involved in memorialize Mr. Cunningham, if at all? And in speaking with Jeff about this specifically, I let him know, and I wanted to let the town know that this is a project that is we're actively engaged in. As some of you may know, I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Wilmington Chamber of Commerce and its former president. Carmen succeeded me as the president of that body a couple of years ago, and he and I had developed a very close friendship, a very close working relationship through the years. And so the Chamber of Commerce is going to be doing a number of things to memorialize Carmen going forward on behalf of the town, I guess I would say. So I want any folks that feel that there ought to be something done, I want them to feel comforted that there is going to be something done. Specifically, the Chamber of Commerce is in communication with the Wilmington School Business Partnership and with the We're One Wilmington organization to devise or to fund a scholarship that will be given in Carmen's name every year to a Wilmington student. And the criteria for the scholarship are being ironed out now, so it's not done yet, so be patient, please. So that will be happening, and there will be a scholarship given next year and hopefully for many, many years after in Carmen's name. Additionally, the annual meeting of the Chamber of Commerce, which happens in the early spring, this next year, it'll be offered in honor of Carmen's passing. And the Chamber of Commerce has discussed creating a Wilmington Business Spirit Award. Again, the criteria for winning that award is not yet defined, but some business professional in Wilmington, based on some set of criteria, will be voted on by the Board of Directors of the Chamber of Commerce and will be granted the Carmen Cunningham Spirit Award in future years. So we feel that is befitting the type of recognition, if any, that Carmen would feel comfortable with. And we feel that it is appropriate in memory of a fine gentleman who served the town in many different ways in a relatively short period of time that he was here. So thank you for your time on that, and certainly I welcome questions or commentary about this now or after the meeting.
Thank you. Anything over here?
Yeah, it's nice to hear that the Chamber of Commerce is doing that. I wholeheartedly agree with that, and the scholarship in his name. I had made that same note to our town manager as well. I just want to make note of the 4th of July festival. It went over fantastically well, I would say. And I want to recognize and thank all of the volunteers and the organizations, and especially the residents and the police department, the fire department, and DPW for the jobs that they did throughout the 4th of July. I had a chance to be down there along with everybody here, and it was just great. It was from what I understand, there's been all positives that I've heard so far, and I guess, has there been any, through the town manager, have there been any negatives, any issues, any fireworks hit the building or the school or the field? Is everything
No,
good there?
the one, I guess the one negative, if you will, was a judgment call that I made towards the end of the event. So Sunday, the Sunday morning, or Sunday afternoon, if you recall, the event was originally, the carnival was originally slated to run from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 p.m. And the intent, when we put the request for proposal together, was to provide some time after the fireworks. We knew that the carnival was, going to be there for a much shorter time than was historically the case. So wanted to give folks an opportunity to attend the carnival on Sunday. I got a call Sunday afternoon from the police chief indicating that the carnival operator was asking whether it would be possible to shut down early because there was not a lot of attendance at that time. And, we talked about it, and the decision that I ultimately made was that we would see how things went until at around 4:30. If it, still was sparsely attended, then they could shut down. I did go over there around 3:30 and noticed that the common was pretty much vacant. Most of the nonprofits had shut down. I think there were 2 or 3 left. And there were people on the rides, but a lot of them were running half full. So ultimately, I did authorize that. Did receive some feedback that some residents were planning to come down later on. We did get the word out via Twitter. The police chief was able to through his efforts get the word out, but unfortunately. It was relatively short notice, and so that was the one thing that I'll take responsibility for. It probably would have been better to just let it go. But other than that, I think it went well. We didn't have any, that I know of, any issues, concerns from the abutters. So I think I really want to give a lot of credit to the chief, police chief, in his department. We really had it well covered, and he really his planning and his lieutenants and so on did a good job of scoping it out so that it was a well set up arrangement. And I'd also just like to express my thanks to Fire Chief McClellan. Who was I had designated to work with the internal group to pull all this together. So,
Yeah, it went great, and I think even the perimeters that they set up for the residents in the house, in the housing, and was well done. So it's good. I didn't hear about the carnival, but that was okay. And how many times can you go on a ride? Yeah, but there was just one other thing I'd like to mention. My son plays softball for an adult league down at the Thomas April Field, and I happen to go down and watch him as a proud parent to see him. And we had that nice, beautiful dog park there, but the gate to get in to the park is always locked. And the parking down there with the dog park and the players, the teams coming down at 5 o'clock, has people now parking across the street over at that building that's for rent. And I'm just wondering, is there a way to get someone to open that up at 5 o'clock and then have it be the responsibility of the people playing softball to close it up? I'm just envisioning that there's going to be an issue. Last time I went, it was jam-packed. There was people parking on top of double parking and people across the street walking across. And I don't know why that would be locked if we're going to offer softball down at the park.
Yeah, I think we can arrange to have it, the gate unlocked. I don't, as I recall, there's not a lot of parking down there. You're talking about the drive down to the ball field.
Yeah, there's plenty. Yeah. It is open on occasion. Occasionally, it's open. And I don't know if one of the managers of the team has a key and they don't pass it on or whatever the case may be. But when it's open, there's plenty of parking. There's only the 2 teams that play, and I don't know how often they play. They may play once a week, twice a week, every other week. I don't know the schedule. I don't know how it's permitted or run.
The co-ed league that's run through the rec?
Yeah, is it run through the rec? I don't know how it's...
Yeah, I think there's a league representative that actually has a key, and it depends on when that person necessarily gets down. Like, they don't all have keys. There's only a select group or I think that might only be one that actually has it.
Okay.
That works directly with Deb Cipriani to get the permits for that schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me
So-
talk to Debbie and see what we can do there to address
So-
that. I certainly don't want to have people going back and forth across Route 38 to try to get over to the
Yeah.
park.
No, just,
Okay.
But it's obviously a valid concern. I just don't know that every coach has a key.
right.
That's my
Right.
point, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Anything else, Kevin?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of comments, if I may. I think it's worth echoing some of the comments that were already made from my colleagues, but I too want to congratulate all those who were involved and thank them for the wonderful celebration that the 4th of July was here in town, and myself and my family really enjoyed it, and all the positive feedback that I've received has been nothing but positive. So I want to thank obviously the town department heads and the current and former members of this board. Long before I was a member of this board, and people worked awfully hard to make sure that this happened, and I want to thank them, and also to the 4th of July committee who put in a lot of work for this to go off and be successful, the police and fire department, and certainly the volunteers and the vendors and the residents. It was just an awesome event, and really grateful that it turned out the way it did. I mentioned that the police and fire department, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank them for their professionalism and the way that they were so engaging with the community. And I think that just this, I think it's an appropriate time just to point out this was just an example of how engaging our police and fire departments are with our residents, and I applaud them for the relationship that they have with our community. And so I thank the brave men and women of our police and fire for everything they do every day.
Thank you. So I don't have anything specific. I think all the points that were made by all of you here are so appropriate and well-placed. I don't want to elongate the meeting by just stating them so that they can be said in my own voice, but I certainly wanted to express the fact that I'm in mutual agreement with all of the compliments and the kind words that were stated, and for the benefit of everyone in keeping my comments brief, I'd like to leave it at that, but please know that those comments are very sincere from me as well. Obviously, we do have a special meeting that we're having this month on July 25th, which the manager will go through for important dates. It's my understanding, just so that we're clear before we leave, if I may, is that, and Bev, if you could certainly comment to the extent that you want to, is that we'll be getting a packet that will have a complete set of documents so that all of us will be able to review that information again, know who we're going to be hearing from at what time and what their corresponding paperwork looks like. So if everyone has information possibly in different places at home, you know, rest assured that you will be getting another packet so that we all can come in well-informed. It will be, you know, an extensive meeting that night. I think it's appropriate and fitting that we're having it. I'm looking forward to it, but please be on the lookout for that information coming to all of you. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Jeff for important dates.
Important dates, we continue to have the farmers market at the Town Common parking lot, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. through October 9th. July 20 is the next concert on the Common, Jimmy and the Jesters, 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. July 22nd is the Middlesex Youth Public Safety Academy graduation, Chelmsford High School, 11 a.m. As Selectman O'Connell mentioned, Board of Selectmen's meeting next Monday, the 25th at 7 p.m. July 27th is the next concert on the Common, 60s Invasion, 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. August 2nd, Wilmington Police Department National Night Out, Rotary Park. August 3rd, brush drop off Old Main Street, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. August 4th, Police Association Beach Day, Town Beach, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. August 6th, brush drop off Old Main Street, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. August 7th, Herndon Tavern Open House, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Also, it's not listed here. I would remind the public and members of the board that on August 11th, the library is having its end of the summer bash, 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Swain Green. There'll be mobile food vehicles there, 3 particular food vehicles and a mobile ice cream vehicle, so you can eat to your heart's content. August 15th, the Board of Selectmen's meeting here at the Town Hall, Room 9. And then August 27th is the Ice Bucket Challenge at Rotary Park, 10 a.m. I would just, if I could, Madam Chair, before the board closes, certainly there's been some incredible situations going on across the country here, unfortunately, in the last couple of weeks with Minnesota and Baton Rouge and Dallas. And I just want to, take this opportunity to really acknowledge the work that our police department does, day in and day out. Oftentimes it goes unheralded. They're 24/7 from, whether it's 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon, whether it's a traffic stop. In fact, I was coming back from the DPW this afternoon and was actually heading home before I came back here, and there was someone had been pulled over on the Richmond Street Bridge, and I couldn't help thinking, in light of the circumstances that we're dealing with today, any of those routine stops that you consider routine, the officers obviously are, I have to believe, are on perhaps even more attentive than they normally are to the situation. And I just want to also extend my thanks to the chief. I know he's looking at doing some training, which is part of the routine anyways, but certainly more important now than ever, to make sure our officers are as safe as they can be.
Thank you for sharing that. That's certainly very fitting and appropriate in very difficult times. I'm, at a loss for words, and you can't quite understand why the world is the way it is sometimes, and there sometimes just is no fitting explanation as to why these things occur, but certainly have my gratitude to this police department and to all of the fellow men and women that put on that uniform every day and put themselves out there and service and sacrifice to others and leave their families to come out and keep the community that they're in safe. It's certainly a very courageous profession. So with that, tonight's meeting has come to a close. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Good night.